northern Hardin County. We're going to get to Local 5 News at 6 o'clock, and we'll get right into it right now. All right, we're back with coverage. A tornado warning in effect until 6:15. This is for northern Hardin County and southern Franklin County. Hail threat as well extending up closer towards Hampton into Franklin County, but you can see inside the polygon, that's where the threat is. What we're watching here is this hook echo and kind of wrapping around on the backside out of this one. I'm going to kind of draw a line. This is where the winds are rushing down and out of the thunderstorm and moving in that updraft coming in from the south. So we're seeing things rotate on the radar picture. We have that classic hook echo showing up. We'll take a look at the velocity picture. And yeah, kind of pinpointing north of Iowa Falls by about 3 miles is where that area of interest would be. And it's becoming a little bit more distinct now. And what we've seen is certainly coming in from our spotters in the fields that there is likely still a tornado threat here north and east of Iowa Falls. Right now, new report coming in. And spotter is, and this is an unconfirmed report, meaning we haven't been able to check the validity of this report, but it is being relayed to us. The spotter is 2 miles to the west of Alden in Hardin County, and there is an ongoing cone-shaped tornado northeast of Iowa Falls. That report coming in at 5:58, and that would be right there where that couplet is being denoted on our Local 5 radar, Doppler radar. So the threat there north of Iowa Falls by 2-3 miles, taking aim to the south and east towards Robertson if it does hold, and Ackley as well. We do have kind of a signal that there's some strong convergence going on here too, but I'd be watching right here in this direction, a little bit of that wind kind of rushing into each other. That's that updraft that's running up into the thunderstorm. That threat is northeast of Iowa Falls at the moment. So we have received word that there has been some property damage associated with this storm. Back northeast of Popejoy, and sometimes we can actually see that on the radar picture as it does kind of loft that debris up. But in northern Iowa at this juncture, that's a very high radar beam to actually see that interact at. A look at the velocity picture, you can still see that couplet northeast of Iowa Falls. We'll go back and show that warning. If this signal continues, we're likely going to see an extension of this tornado warning as well. So report law enforcement west of Ackley is reporting a tornado on the ground, so likely able to be visible from the community of Ackley as well. So Ackley, you need to be seeking shelter. Iowa Falls, especially if you are north of town, that is where the greatest concern is at the moment. Cone coming out here, this one's moving to the south and east at about 20 miles per hour. You can see those estimated times coming in. 6:30, Robertson will be in your community. Ackley seeking shelter, 6:37, and 6:45 in Cleves. So that hook is where the threat is currently, and that's going to continue to track to the east and south and east. So over the last hour, this is the radar loop, and I want to show you this storm exploded onto the scene and actually merged with a cell further to the north that was severe warned as we came out of the news at 5 o'clock. Sometimes the interaction of two cells coming together can hurt the development of the thunderstorm, but it doesn't seem to be inhibiting at this point. North of Iowa Falls is where that threat is at the moment. I'll throw the shear tracks up on it, and you can see it's kind of getting up into that cyan color, if you will, and looking at 27 miles per hour of shear on radar, but down to the surface that can grow a little bit more intense. And as it sits, we look at that history of shear tracks, and you can kind of see that it's been dotting all over that radar map over the last 30 minutes. But moving to the south and east, we have confirmed reports of a tornado still on the ground northeast of Iowa Falls and west of Ackley. So this one is being reported by storm spotters out into the field, and we're going to continue to monitor the situation here for you closely in the Weather Center. So this is a dangerous situation. This is a legit tornado threat here in Hardin County and southern Franklin County, right near the county line, and we've been seeing some reports coming in from those observers in the field. There is a tornado on the ground. In fact, I'm getting a look at one of these pictures on Twitter right now. We'll see if we can get the rights to air this with you, but it is a conical-shaped tornado on the ground that is moving across southern Franklin County. So that is being reported by our friends, our spotters in the field, that something is on the ground. All right, so the shear is where we're looking at the conditions being the worst in, excuse me, let me get the correct layer on here, northeast of Iowa Falls, an extension of that tornado warning now. Again, confirmed tornado. This lasts until 6:45. Hardin County extending it into Franklin County as well, and then we get into the extreme northwestern section of Grundy County. So anywhere in Steamboat Rock, Iowa Falls, Ackley, west of Wellsburg, you need to be seeking shelter. Some of the smaller communities there in Hardin County popping up on screen. Robertson, you should be seeking shelter at the moment. So observed tornado. This is moving south and east, and it has sped up a little bit, as I told you, 20 miles per hour, moving to the east and south and east. This one is near Bradford or Iowa Falls, moving that direction. Reports that this one has caused some damage back near Popejoy, I believe, spotted on the ground northeast of Iowa Falls, west of Ackley. So that threat is almost right where the arrow of that rightmost tornado warning is going to there. We'll check in on the velocity. It's been a little while since we have there, and still kind of that rotating signal that is coming in. Green is going to the radar site, which we are using Des Moines at the moment, and red is going away. So with that shearing effect, that's the most likely area of where that tornado can be found, but again, this is sampled very high in the atmosphere, so it can meander its way around by, in some cases, several miles on down to the surface, and that's why we keep those tornado warnings running so wide on the screen, as you can see here. So moving south and east, it looks like this threat is exiting Franklin County and getting into northeastern Hardin County at the moment. Southeast at about 20 miles per hour. Ackley, you're not listed in this particular wedge, but I do think you should still continue to be seeking shelter at the moment. So this one developed as a rope tornado and has grown into something a little bit more conical in nature, a little bit larger. And even though the atmosphere is basing these thunderstorms very high, it's still carrying its way on down and to the ground. So storm is producing a tornado east of Iowa Falls, now northeast of Iowa Falls, and continuing to push to the south and east with time. So some damage has been reported. Let's go over to the debris and see if we can see anything being lofted in the air. And at this stage, I'm still not seeing a clear signal. What we would see is kind of a dot showing up on the screen, and it would be kind of in that blue color, and we're just not seeing that happen, so we'd be looking right around here. Doesn't mean that threat is gone just because we're not seeing it, but it can confirm if that tornado is still on the ground even without seeing it and getting those reports from our eyes in the field at the moment. So we're going to continue with coverage here as we go through 6:45 for this tornado warning. And we'll get you back to Doppler radar. And you can see kind of those two cells merging together. And what that's happened is we kind of backed up that hook. That initial hook is fading away. I'm going to go backwards in time on the radar. And that initial hook is starting to be overcome and form a new one on the back side here. So Iowa Falls, you're still in the danger zone here. Please continue to seek shelter as we go through there. Here's the shear, and again, what I mean by that is that rotation kind of above. It's being denoted to northeast of Iowa Falls. Now, I'll tell you, sometimes this data coming in can be a little latent, and I do think that threat could be a little bit more south and east of that area that's being shown there. And yeah, we can kind of see that. And really, anywhere back along this line from about Robertson to Iowa Falls and even to Alden, I'd be watching for that spin up. It does look like we're converging with the winds right here northeast of Iowa Falls and then west of Robertson at the moment. So we have our crews in the newsroom. They're doing their thing and trying to call around, see if there's any reports of damage that they can pass along. And so far, we just are going by our storm spotters in the field saying there is a tornado on the ground at the moment. So we're going to keep it right here with coverage, and Iowa Falls still seek shelter here for this tornado that is in place.
Chris, I have a question for
yes,
you.
Please.
You know, you show us those polygons, those two there, and basically anybody in that area, whether you're seeing the weather or not, you should be aware, you should be in your safe place. We always reiterate, do not wait to hear a siren.
Yeah, and of course the sirens are meant for outdoors as well. So indoors we're telling you these polygons, and if you're inside it, go inside, go to the basement or lowest level of your room, stay away from those windows and find a small room. Something ideal like a bathroom or a closet, and you can get down under a piece of furniture if you can. That's going to be the best way to stay safe as we go through this. We're working to get the rights on this picture that I showed you, but Stephanie, you've seen it here too, and you know that's a tornado. It was a cone-shaped tornado. We're watching social media and some of the reports coming in, and this one it was a gnarly looking one. I'll tell you, I went into this and I went into telling you at 5 o'clock that it wasn't ideal for tornadoes today, as these storms are pretty well high base, and I still think that these storms are high base looking at the pictures. But we are finding the strength, the potency here to get these tornadoes to come down to the ground. One thing we haven't touched on lately, let me get back up into the area, is hail, and it does look like we have a pretty strong size of hail being possible, perhaps even something even larger than this. I believe the warning is going to be for ping pong ball sized hail out of this. Actually, this is a new warning. 1 second here. This is hail up to 1 inch, and so that's what we're seeing our radar estimate things as right now. There is a new severe thunderstorm warning in place for Franklin County going into Grundy and Hardin County, so that's for that same storm, same threat. Hail is why that severe thunderstorm warning has been issued. That's going to go until 7:15. I will say in extreme western Iowa, out towards Omaha, there's a couple more isolated cells. I don't think this is going to build in widespread along that line, and this threat is going to remain rather isolated. Right now, by far and away, though, the strongest storm is near Iowa Falls at the moment. And the new report coming in, this tornado is continuing. It's maybe slowed up and has not moved as that hook is kind of drug along the backside of this for just a little bit. At 5:59, I guess this is 10 minutes ago, 5:59, there was a report that tornado on the ground 4 miles north of Iowa Falls. I'll go to the radar picture once again. Here is where that threat is going to be. We're looking east of Iowa Falls now at this point is where I think the greatest risk is, perhaps a secondary one around the Iowa Falls area. So continue to stay in your safe place as we will continue coverage here. Yeah, just more reports on social media of this tornado, some pictures coming through. Again, we'll work to see if we can get permission to share these with you at home, because sometimes the pictures tell the story just a little bit better. And yeah, certainly it is lofting some debris right here. And this looks like this is from north of Iowa Falls, another conical shaped tornado ongoing. So this one is still on the ground here. This whole storm is rotating at the moment as it moves through the Iowa Falls area. A lot of muddy shear signals coming in within that tornado warned area around Iowa Falls to Robertson and up near the state line, the county line towards Franklin County. At the moment. So severe thunderstorm warning and tornado warning continues. kind of have that hook morphing a little bit is changed its stance a little bit, and initially it was about right here, was north of Iowa Falls, but now we've kind of absorbed that one and we're trying to recycle again back to the west of Iowa Falls. So you saw that transition there. I'm not seeing a huge velocity signal of a tornado, but there certainly is a couplet here just to the west of Iowa Falls. And if we got something rare going, it'd be cyclonic there to the east. But in all this green, that's where we could estimate some winds up to 60 miles per hour in there too, along with that hail up to 1 inch in diameter. In fact, we've gotten in a report now of near Geneva, so up here into eastern Franklin County, of ping pong ball sized hail. That report being brought to us by MPing. If you don't MPing, that's a way for you to send your reports and have them auto-populate on many radar sites across the nation. So continuing with a tornado warning as well, further down to the south. A report of a funnel cloud in Bremer County. That's with a separate thunderstorm, but no doubt something we are going to watch. It looks like it's getting a little muddy here as I look at the scenario objectively, but there's still that hook, and it's passing right over Iowa Falls. I do think that threat is kind of occluded, and it's redeveloped further to the west. So we're looking right at the transition of these two tornado warnings at the moment is where I'm thinking that greatest risk is going to be. So Iowa Falls, stay in your safe places, kind of taken more of a southeasterly jaunt. And usually that's a sign of a very strong thunderstorm when it bites the updraft like that. So you see initially it was moving east, and we had a cell merger. That storm from the north came in. Sometimes that can work to destroy the dynamics of that original thunderstorm. This time it looks like it's pushed into it and taken it further south. It's probably for the reason that original hook to be recycled in, but there's still a hook there around the Iowa Falls area, and I would say continue to stay in your safe place if you are in Iowa Falls. That's where I see the greatest danger showing up on the picture at the moment. Tornado has roped out via the National Weather Service in Des Moines, but that's not to say that the threat still isn't there. So we're going to continue to watch it. And as this one is continuing on through 7 o'clock, 7:15, this is for a observed tornado. Actually, this warning goes until 6:45. We have allowed the ones upstream to go by the wayside as we're now at 6:15. This tornado warning goes towards till 6:45 this evening. So anyone within that pink polygon needs to be seeking shelter. This is an observed tornado. Funnel cloud being reported, that is in Bremer County. They also have a tornado warned storm north of Waterloo. So a couple of really nasty looking thunderstorms at the moment on the radar picture in northern Iowa. Okay, we're continuing on here, tracking the situation for you very closely. We've been parsing social media and seeing some of these pictures. We're working to get the chance to share them with you, but it's been a scary looking sight up there into Hardin, Franklin County.
And the first glimpse that we got of that tornado, it looked like it was in a more rural area, but the unfortunate thing is you mentioned there are some populated spots around that, so people do need to be on alert. A good time to have our app, have another source of information in case you lose power, you can't connect with us on the TV. But if you're in that area, we do urge everyone to stay safe, stay alert, get into your little safe spot. You know where that is in your home, hopefully, as interior as you can get in your house. And just don't take any chances with this. We're going to keep our eye on it as we always do here, but what we ask of you is to be safe. If you do take any photos of this, if you can take photos and you can take them safely, please don't go outside, but if you can take something safely, we would appreciate seeing what you're seeing on the ground, or just send us a message on news or at weareiowa.com.
Maybe after the fact.
After the fact. Stay in your safe place.
Absolutely.
That's the number one here if you're in that area.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we want. That's first and foremost at the moment is your safety. So I've been looking at a couple of products here while Stephanie was talking, and one of those being the debris. I'm not seeing any clear debris showing up here. I'm also going to go to the storm relative velocity because of the merger of those two storms. This one has really muddied up the velocity picture at the moment. Let me see if I can loop this for you here over the last 45 minutes. You can see those two storms colliding. I do think there's a pretty strong wind threat, especially southwest of Ackley at the moment. You can see that bullseye where we start to go into the blue colors there. This is going to be a signal where we're getting that wind north of 60 miles per hour, and you can just shave that minus sign off the front of that number. This is in absolutes what we're looking at the data. It just means the direction in which it's going, 61 miles per hour, and there's a good chance that that is being translated down to the surface. We also have a hail threat in there too, and ping pong ball sized hail that was coming in near Geneva. And you can kind of see that sometimes you don't always get that bullseye. What the radar is saying where the hail actually falls. We have to keep in mind that the wind is always stirring about in these thunderstorms, and I'm only looking at one particular level that I've shown you all of this coverage long, and it's been fixed at the same time, at the same level. So that wind certainly can take the hail. It looks like that southerly wind is prevailing and maybe taking things a little bit further to the north. So watch out in Ackley for some rather large hail. And it looks like that hook has really gone by the wayside. That is a good thing to see. We hope this weakening trend continues. I'm not quite convinced we can go away from the coverage just yet, given that this was a confirmed tornado, but struggling to find where that best couplet would be, perhaps starting to translate it south of Iowa Falls a little bit. But ever since about this scan here, everything's gotten very muddy, and we're starting to really hone in on the updraft winning out, and the downdraft maybe not quite swinging around quite as strong out of this one. So that hook is kind of washed away. Still tornado warning going to go until 6:45 for northeastern Hardin County. I do think that threat is out of Franklin County at this point. And this one moving to the south and east at about 20 miles per hour. Let me widen the base out on my cone and see if we can broaden out that threat, since that threat has gotten a little bit wider, or displaced, I should say, from the radar picture. I do think Eagle City, Steamboat Rock should be on high alert for this confirmed tornado. Confirmed reports of damage back near Popejoy, and this one reported on the ground north of Iowa Falls, but I since think that that threat has translated its way further south. New range of data coming in. There we have perhaps a slight little trying to hook out there south of Iowa Falls, and we'd be looking at this general area. Of course, there's a secondary one in there too. That wind is still going to be feeding up into the storm like that, out of the south and east, kind of curling about. One thing I want to do is I want to go over these reports that we've seen so far. So if you are in the warned area, continue to seek your safe place, and that's going to be your best course of action at this point. So we've seen hail. That hail threat up near Geneva that we heard, or actually south and west of Geneva, helps if I look at the mileage away from the community, not just the community itself. So it does align pretty well closely with that hail core that we are seeing on the radar picture. That tornado being reported near Iowa Falls, and then northeast of Popejoy around 5:46. And this was lofting debris up in the sky at that point, and in its infancy at 5:25, right as we saw this storm go severe, right before we got the official warning on it, there was a report of a rope tornado. This is a robust supercell, but it's about the only thing that we're watching, at least here locally in the We Are Iowa coverage area, and it's up near Iowa Falls at the moment. So definitely a strong hail signature in there. I'll go ahead and pop that up there and kind of overlay that area we'd be watching for that strongest hail, and indicating it's up to some big-time levels in here, perhaps up to that ping pong ball size nature, and we do have that report coming in southwest of Ackley. So threat continues. We'll probably keep it here until we get better reports that this one is maybe starting to weaken, and maybe that tornado has lifted, but I don't want to say that at this point. There is an awful lot of lightning going on in this severe thunderstorm at the moment. And in the pink means observed. So whenever you see that on We Are Iowa, that means that tornado has been observed. Last report we had was closer to 6 o'clock, so it's been some time. And I don't want to say that this threat is completely gone or give you a false sense of security, but definitely things in the chat and what I've been following on social media has definitely toned it down a little bit. That's a good sign, but I'm not 100% convinced that this threat has completely gone away, because on the radar picture initially, when we were starting to get those initial tornado threats, tornado reports coming in, it was not the best looking storm at the same time either. So yes, we do have severe thunderstorm warning and tornado warning for Hardin County at the moment. And you can see there. Now we have turned to red, and so what that means is that this is radar indicated. And for simplicity for everyone in the booth, we're going to go ahead and keep it here for the duration of the Local 5 News at 6 o'clock. That way we don't have to try to crunch everything. And, you know, that's the best. The threat is out here right now, and we're going to continue to track it for you. So the update with that warning, that tornado warning, is that this storm is sped up a little bit, now moving at 30 miles per hour. It looks capable of producing a tornado, and that was near Steamboat Rock, or 7 miles north of Eldora. And we're kind of watching this northern edge, or excuse me, southern edge of the storm north of Eldora, north of Steamboat Rock. We'll see if we can get another one of those hooks to come back around. Haven't checked out the velocity seen for a while. Screaming signal of a rotating storm up in here, and some very strong winds south of Ackley, perhaps as much as 65 miles per hour. Let's go ahead and sample. And yeah, around 66 miles per hour with that wind. Keep in mind that's up in the storm, but also we have the strong heavy rain, so that helps translate it down to the ground. So extreme northeast, Hardin County, north of Steamboat Rock, moving towards Wellsburg, and eventually Grundy Center if this one holds, and this one is moving at about 30 miles per hour. So I'm going to put kind of a wider brush on things here. Moving to the south and east at 30 miles per hour. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to reset. Ignore those numbers as we move through and reset here. So this is moving down to the south and east at about 30 miles per hour. And some of those communities that are going to be impacted, you see, as we go through time. So hail signal, weak tornado signal at this point. I'm not seeing a big couplet out of this, but the area we would be watching is north of Eldora at this point, as this one's trying to come around. Big time wind signal out of this in northeastern Hardin County. So that pinpoint you see right there south of Ackley, and that wind rushing down is going to tend to curl around like this as it comes out of the thunderstorm. But underneath that heavy rain is certainly where it is at the moment. We're getting new updates coming in on the radar scan, the latest coming through. This has been a robust supercell, and it's kind of gone through a merger, and that's certainly taken a lot out of the equation here with that initial tornado warning. We haven't seen anything come through suggesting that this tornado is still on the ground, but we also haven't gotten complete confirmation that it's lifted up either. Sometimes we don't always get that confirmation when it does happen. Reports of damage back near Popejoy, east of Dow's, north of Iowa Falls. That one was reported still on the ground. No word on the extent of the damage with this one, but certainly something we'll watch. And what we're looking at in the shear here, north of Eldora, this is where you start to get into that strong rotating storm. It's not pinpointed, but there is certainly some rotation in there. What I'd be watching is especially down here as you get closer to Eldora. That would match up closely on the southern end of that line. So this is solidly within that storm. That storm is spinning. It's churning almost like an engine. And we have those strong wind gusts up there as well. So continuing to track the situation here as we go through the bottom of the 6 o'clock hour. Again, this tornado warning does extend until 6:45, but we're getting very close to running out the extent of this tornado warning. We'll tell you with that storm up north of Waterloo, it's producing baseball-sized hail. So that is also going to be something we're watching, is very large hail. We've seen it here at We Are Iowa, that baseball-sized hail, and it can do a lot of damage. I believe that was just last summer that happened. So we're watching these